Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello and welcome, my friends, to episode 168, where we are going to dive into fulfilling that longing that you have for deeper connection, for feeling that palpable sense of loving connection with another human, specifically your spouse. So if you and your spouse have drifted apart in the busyness of life, or you feel more like roommates or business partners than like lovers, or maybe you feel like there's a lot of little things that have happened between you that have really just chipped away at that sense of connection between you, or you just don't know why exactly, but you feel disconnected and you're feeling sad about that. You're disappointed in the quality of your marriage because of that. Then if any of that's going on for you, this episode is for you. And so is the Closer to Your Husband in 7 Days challenge. It's an event I'm about to put on if you haven't yet heard. That was so popular in the past and so effective for so many women. And it is not like the podcast. It's going to give you the very doable but concrete, specific, and simple things that you need to do to create a lot more closeness and connection with your spouse. And you're going to get the accountability and the motivation and the support to actually do it. This challenge is all about taking action, which is really the only way to make the changes you want. And it's easy and fun when you do this with me and the other women who have already enrolled. It's happening starting October 15th through the 21st of 2024, and you don't want to miss it. The best part about it is this live round where you actually get direct support from me is only $24, and the price will go up for the course after this. It's really a total steal for all that will change and all that you get during this week together. You're going to get a short, specific lesson or challenge via video every day for 7 days in a row, doled out sequentially. And you're going to get 2 choose your own adventure challenges and ways to personalize each and every challenge or action. You're going to get extra bonus lessons that I've created. You're going to get a workbook to keep you on track and accountable for your goals, for that closeness and connection that you want. You're going to get a group of other sensitive women cheering you on and helping you feel motivated and inspired to keep deepening the connection and closeness that you want. And of course, you're going to get that direct support from me in 2 live Q&A calls. So join us. You can find the direct link to just hop in the show notes, or you can head over to my website, www.lifeisworthloving.com/closer to your husband in 7 days challenge. That part is all smushed into one word. You've got to be there. I just am so excited for this event and to do this with you and to support you in this way. People in the past have had such transformations from this. I'm just going to share 2 of the things that past participants have said. One woman, Evie, said, "This challenge has been a real eye-opener for me as to how much more I could be doing to be closer to my husband. And I've realized how much expectation I've been putting on him to meet my needs. I've felt much closer to my husband and more respected after doing just the few challenges." So just the first few days. And she says, "Thank you so much." And Carolyn says, "This challenge has completely changed the way I see my husband and feel for him now. I can give love to him and to myself. Now I can see how hard he tries. I can see how hard he works. I hear the love he has for me in his voice. I feel us getting closer and closer." So this is all possible for you too in just a matter of a few days when you decide to join me in this challenge. So do not miss it. It's time to sign up. So let's dive into today's topic, shall we? So way back in my first marriage, a friend told me she thought my husband and I had what she called a dry toast marriage. I always thought that was a funny term, but I totally see what she meant. It wasn't juicy. It wasn't alive with connection. Our marriage was more like we were friends and roommates a lot of the time. It was practical a lot of the time. It was kind of dry. Looking back, I can see that even though I thought it was mostly because of my husband and his, quote, deficiencies, his lack of ability to connect with me as often as I'd like in the deep ways that I wanted, really, I was absolutely part of why we were, quote, dry toast. I had, over time, shut my heart down little by little. Now, I know that it happened in a kind of unskillful response to the times that we argued and all the tiny moments I was unhappy with how he acted with me, or mistakes that I thought he was making, or the little irritants that, like, right, the little ways he irritated me, right? I kind of let them all add up inside me, and I let them harden my heart. And I think that this happened. I think that when this happens to us, it comes from a place of kind of wanting to cover the pain left over from a lifetime of having what I'm going to call today holes in our hearts. So I want to use that as a metaphor today, because almost all of us come into this world to an imperfect family, to imperfect caregivers that can't always meet every need of ours in order for us to grow fully resourced and always knowing our deep worthiness and lovability. So to back up a little bit, it really is important to understand that healthy psychological development for you, for me, for all of us happens when our emotional needs get met by our caregivers. Of course, our physical needs as well, but our emotional needs are really key here. When our caregivers give us attention, when they delight in us, when they attune to our feelings and meet us with the empathy or care we need, or give us the autonomy we need to develop a sense of independence, and so on and so forth. When they're giving us these essential things, these essential resources, this nourishment, when they give that to us from the outside, right? Because they're outer forces, they are outside of us. So when they give that to us, it allows us to eventually be able to build in an internal sense of those things. So when this happens, as it should, when we're kids, if our caregivers had been ideal and perfect with us, those external resources would become internal resources in each of us. But the emotional resources that we need to be given as young ones to become wholehearted humans, they are most often not fully supplied by the world, by our caregivers, by others in our lives. Most often it doesn't happen fully. And this doesn't just happen with neglect or abuse. It happens in the course of a very normal childhood with good caregivers. But most caregivers can't be perfect. They can't always meet that ideal standard. We ultimately need to fully come out as whole humans with these internal resources. And so we walk around as adults with deficits in our sense of worthiness and significance and security and sense of belonging and inclusion and sense of efficacy and sense of connection and valuableness and love. In other words, we walk around without the essential internal resources we need to be thriving, happy humans and have the kind of relationships that we want. And another way of putting this is that we walk around with what we might call holes in our heart. And then what happens when we meet our future spouse? They temporarily fill these holes with a sense of being seen, a sense of sufficiency, being enough to be loved as we are, a sense of deep lovability, a sense of belonging. And yet, because our partner, our future spouse, and now our current spouse, also have holes in their heart, and because no human can consistently be a steady source of all of that for us, we once again start to feel the pain of those holes in our heart that never actually were being totally filled by our partner, that never actually were fully healed. Our partner's attention and love kind of just acted like a Band-Aid that temporarily covered over the gaping holes that we have. And so what happens then is the longing creeps back in, the longing to be deeply seen, to be deeply valued, to be fulfilled by others, the longing for that attention and attunement and love and connection. And the longing persists even when our partner is right there loving us and valuing us, but maybe just not in that steady, obvious way that we've come to rely on to fill those holes. And sometimes they even are loving us in an obvious way, and we still aren't feeling it. We're still sitting there longing for it and not feeling it. Because without intervention from our now adult selves, those holes can be like sieves that have no bottom, that never seem to fill up. And then what can oftentimes happen is we kind of try to cover over that hole, unconsciously, of course, with like we pave over it. We kind of cut ourselves off from our heart in an attempt to protect our heart. And we can become kind of prickly or just like numb or defended and kind of immune to the love that is there, the care that is being shown to us from our spouse. So you might be wondering, does this condemn us to feeling these holes in our heart forever? Of course not. As adults, there are metaphorical vitamins that we can take to heal those holes in our hearts. And of course, the vitamins might not be exactly the same ones for each of us. Like the vitamins that I need might be different than the ones that you need, but they are available for you and for me. And for all of us as we reach adulthood, the vitamins that we need are no longer just an action from someone else. The vitamin isn't our partner suddenly becoming that doting, perfectly able to connect in all moments ideal of a partner. The vitamin you need is actually an experience inside yourself. So let me say that again. So important. The vitamin you need isn't your partner to do something for you. The vitamin you need is actually an experience inside yourself, meaning it's something you need to feel within yourself. How you feel it doesn't matter, meaning there are many ways to create that experience. So as an example, a very potent and apt example, one vitamin you might need, you probably need, is a sense of connection, a sense of recognition and belonging, and that sense that you matter to another human being. Again, your partner is not and should not be the sole provider of that vitamin. And I know this because this was a mistake I made for so long in my first marriage. I thought he was supposed to be that vitamin. I thought he was the only vitamin that could help me feel whole, feel fulfilled, that could help me have that experience of deep connection that I wanted. And when I found out that he inevitably could not be that vitamin, at least consistently, I closed my heart, not on purpose, but it just kind of was a reaction, right? I slowly cut myself off from the love and the intimacy that was available with him. I closed myself off from the vitamins our connection could have provided if I had found other ways, other vitamins to nourish and heal my full of holes heart. Because again, your partner is not the sole provider of the vitamin. To take the vitamin you need and heal from its nourishment, you don't have to wait for or beg for your partner to give it to you. And in fact, it doesn't have to come from anyone else either, because you have the capacity to call on other resources, both internal and external, that you're totally in charge of to get that vitamin, to get that connection, to get that sense of belonging, or whatever it is you may need. And as adults, this is some of our most important work to be emotionally and even physically well. Most important work is to provide ourselves with the metaphorical emotional vitamins we need. You probably totally get intellectually what I'm saying. As kids, we can't provide those vitamins that we need. Our caretakers and the world around us needs to provide that for us. And the vitamins we weren't able to get from our imperfect world and caretakers as children, we now as adults are able to provide for ourselves. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. But the question you probably have is, how do we do that? Well, of course, there's a fair amount to it, but one of the prime ways to provide those emotional vitamins and fill those holes in your heart is to take in positive experiences. The positive experiences for the specific vitamin you need. So if it's a sense of belonging that you feel as a hole in your heart, to nourish yourself with that belonging, the work is to attune your attention to moments in your life when you do feel that sense of belonging. Whether it's something that happened in the past or something that arises in the present as you go about your day and you have those little experiences of belonging. For example, I feel that several times a day throughout my day with my cat, and also during times in my garden, like just being there among the life and the beauty of the plants. So these are external things, and we could call these external resources. But if I slow down and really just take in the experience of being with them, that sense of belonging that comes up in me, and really soak that up for 30 seconds, the way that that feels in my body, I build it in to the fabric of my being. I allow it to become an internal resource. I allow it to slowly but surely fill those holes in my heart and heal them. So you can do the same with things like this. Now, I can also use my memory and my amazing brain and imagination, and so can you, to move back to a time when I felt a real sense of belonging in a community or with friends or with lovers or with my husband. So you can do this too. You can remember a moment when you were feeling the thing that you long for now, the thing that is kind of like a hole in your heart. For example, you can remember a time when you felt that connection that you long for, and then allow that memory to really sit with you and feel that sense of connection that you had then in your body now, again, for 30 seconds or so. And as you do this regularly over time, you're going to mend those holes. You're going to fill them up. Another way we can do this, one way that I do this, and you can too, is to call on what many people will call an external resource, even though it's actually happening internally with no dependence on an actual outside other human being. And that is to call to mind a benevolent being, right? So this is to use your imagination, which is inside of you, to sense into or envision a being, a benevolent being. Like for me, it's a wise woman that's larger than me, like this large, wise woman. And I can sense her with me, like loving me and accepting me completely, right? I have to kind of turn on my imagination and open myself to her. But then she's there with me, and I can feel her caring for me and accepting me and loving me and connecting with me. And as I spend even just several moments with her or with any of these quote vitamins, I can literally feel that sense of belonging, that sense of mattering, that sense of connection and being loved and being lovable. And as I sit with that, as I sense that and take that in, those holes in my heart start to heal because they are getting the nourishment they didn't get early on, that they were deficient in from early on in my life, and that no one in my adulthood could fill but me. And it's interesting and wonderful because from here, it's actually easier to interact with my husband in a way that's light, that's fun, that's so connecting. And the funnest part is that from this nourished place, this resourced, healed place, it becomes easy to offer him vitamins he needs, to offer him the acknowledgement and acceptance he needs, the love and connection and belonging he needs. And it also makes it easy to receive the vitamins he does give me. And all of this allows him to more easily offer me more of the vitamins, from the external, right, that I need. So I get more of them from him. because he feels so good with me. And so the love he feels for me can easily show itself. And he's also more likely from there to stretch, to show that love and connection in the way I want him to more. And so the holes in me mend more and more because I get to have more and more of the experiences from outside and from inside that fill me, that nourish me in the way I need to have that whole healed heart. And all of this is true for you too, or will be as you get to doing this. Now, please understand that I am not saying we should not get these metaphorical vitamins from our significant other. As you can tell from what I was just saying, it's an absolutely beautiful thing to have people in our lives who are able to offer us those vitamins, right? That nourishment that our hearts need. But it cannot be solely the job of your partner. That's putting a lot of pressure on him, and it often leads to all sorts of issues and painful dynamics developing when he can't be that perfect source of those nourishing vitamins for you. It's going to lead to being very disappointed in the quality of your marriage and the connection in it, like I experienced in my first marriage. So this is why being our own source of nourishing, healing vitamins is magical for a marriage and is essential for really healing your heart and just feeling like the beloved, precious human that you are. So hopefully you're understanding that this all means that we can do the inner work and we can also do the outer work to draw out the beautiful things, the nourishing moments with our partners, and that sense of deep connection we all want and need. This is not about just one or the other. It's both. We have an enormous amount that we can do on our side of the street to both become internally filled with the connection, belonging, and love and fulfillment and security we need. And there's so many actions you can take externally, things you can do and ways you can communicate and things you can offer to your spouse that will generate more connection, more closeness, more deep intimacy, more mutual supportiveness. In other words, you have so much power to generate all of it between you and your honey. So today I've given you a potent way to do some of the inner work, to begin healing those holes in your heart by taking the specific emotional vitamins that you need, by taking in the experiences of them. And I want to invite you to join me for a powerful week of doing both the inner work and outer work to make those emotional vitamins of connection, feeling seen and loved and adored, be so much more available in your relationship. So join me in the ever popular Closer to Your Husband in 7 Days challenge. Again, that's running live October 15th through 21st. And over this 1 week together, you will do the simple things and make the energetic and biochemical shifts that not only provide you with the emotional vitamins you want and need, but that also lead to the kind of connection that makes you just want to be with your honey, to cuddle in bed again before you arise for the day, to catch each other's eyes with a smile as you pass in the hallway, or to melt into an embrace as you rejoin each other after a day apart. And joining the challenge is only $24, which is a silly low price for all you're going to be getting this week and beyond, because you actually get to keep everything that you get this week. Beautiful learning site, all the videos, all the bonuses, and the future live calls that I'm going to do. So this is a ridiculous steal. I cannot think of a more enjoyable way to take those nourishing vitamins that will fill your heart with the connection you need to be happy. So join me by going to the link in the description of this podcast episode or heading over to my website. You can go to www.hspmarriagecoaching.com and you'll find the events and courses tab. You can just click that and you will see it there. Now, before we part today, I want to give you one more thing on this. I have found over the years that one of the very most important thing I can do to give myself and my relationship more of those emotional vitamins that we all need, that I need, that my husband needs, is to ask myself, how can I encourage more of the connection I want? and then to act on my answers. So I invite you to ask yourself that. How can you encourage more of the connection you want? And then join me in the challenge to truly act on many of the most potent ways to generate the connection and closeness that you want in your marriage. I will see you in there, and be oh so well.